Heavy fighting in two former Soviet republics on the eve of a crucial meeting in Minsk. And Yugoslav rockets strike near the Croatian capital of Zagreb. This is the CBS Evening News. Good evening. I'm Connie Chung. Leaders of the 11 Soviet republics, now known as the Commonwealth of Independent States, meet tomorrow in Minsk to deal with at least two urgent problems: the economy and the military. The meeting comes none too soon. Civil disorder continues. Tonight we have new pictures of the president of Georgia holed up in the underground bunker of the heavily damaged parliament building, still refusing to step down and yield to opposition forces. And in an Armenian enclave in Azerbaijan, 25 people have died in fighting. Tom Fenton has more from Moscow.
Fighting continued for the seventh straight day in Georgia. Opposition forces continued their assault on the parliament building in an effort to topple the republic's president. Fighting also escalated between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Troops of the former Soviet army are being withdrawn from both trouble spots as the huge Soviet military machine begins to fall apart. Russian President Boris Yeltsin wants to keep the armed forces intact, but admitted today the army may split up into national forces.
We must reach an agreement on ground forces, and I think most of the republics want them to be under one commander-in-chief.
Nuclear weapons are supposed to remain under Moscow's control, although procedures for coordinating their use must still be clarified. But three republics, including the Ukraine, have declared they will form their own conventional armies, and Russia said today it will establish a small national guard. The Ukraine has even made a grab for the Black Sea Fleet, but the former Soviet Navy sailed its prize aircraft carrier out of the Black Sea 4 weeks ago before the Ukraine could act. The Ukraine's newly elected president, Leonid Kravchuk, told CBS News he plans to block any moves tomorrow in Minsk to give Russia a dominant role in the Commonwealth.
We will not allow any documents that would deprive Ukraine of even a small part of its independence.
The economic crisis in the former Soviet Union is another urgent problem to be faced in Minsk. The central bank was reported today to be running out of banknotes with only 2 days' supply left. Huge unilateral price increases due to go in effect in Russia on Tuesday are sending shockwaves throughout the other republics. The Commonwealth is off to a bad start. Gorbachev, who is now just a private citizen, thinks it's so weak it may be unworkable. He predicts ethnic violence and economic chaos. He may be right. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Moscow.
Fighting escalated in Croatia as Yugoslavia staged new assaults on key Croatian cities. As Martha Teichner reports, the violence occurred on the eve of peace efforts by an American diplomat.
For Croatia's capital, Zagreb, it was the closest call yet. 6 major explosions within 5 miles of the city. Croatian military officials claim that for the first time in the 6-month civil war, the Yugoslav army was using surface-to-surface missiles. Today, journalists were shown the damage as proof. The craters, the fragments of the Soviet-made rockets, to contradict official Yugoslav denials. What is regarded as an escalation of the fighting was not unexpected as the January 15th deadline for European community recognition of Croatia approaches. Today, Yugoslav army jets strafed the town of Karlovac, which has been under attack nearly non-stop for a week. 30 miles southwest of Zagreb, Karlovac is important strategically in the defense of the capital. It is also a major industrial center at the edge of the Croatian territory claimed by Serbian militants. At least 15 people were reported killed since Friday, another 50 wounded. A large orphanage was damaged, as well as a brewery. The fighting has been so intense there that European community monitors and relief convoys have not been allowed to enter.
Normally they have to guarantee our safety, and they don't like very much when we go in the town as the shelling happened.
But a team of UN observers was able to get into Karlovac, with UN Special Envoy Cyrus Vance back in Europe for another attempt to resolve the conflict. The observer's job is to assess how the UN could position peacekeeping troops if a ceasefire is somehow imposed. Martha Teichner, CBS News, London.
In formerly communist Bulgaria, the cost of freedom has been a virtual economic disaster. Peter Van Sant reports.
Thousands of socialists rally in Sofia, Bulgaria. It may look like a rally from communism's glory years, but it's not. It's an expression of frustration, a longing for the bad old days when liberty was scarce, but at least everyone had a job.
Of course people are scared because there are no jobs now. People are losing their jobs, so they're scared, of course.
Bulgaria's economy is collapsing. Industrial production has fallen by 1/2 in just the last year. And what few goods are available in the shops have tripled in price.
People look, but few can afford to buy. Without demand, Bulgaria's factories, like this computer company, are on the skids. The average person doesn't have enough money to buy a computer. And because Bulgaria's computers can't compete with Western quality and technology, they can't be exported.
Yes, certainly life became difficult, but it's free, which is the most important thing now, that people are free.
That new freedom is seen in street markets, which have sprung up since the communists fell from power. Angel Angelov used to work as an electronics engineer. Now he sells vegetables and is making more money than ever before.
Yeah.
You like private business?
Yes, of course.
Why?
This is the future, I think.
Bulgaria's greatest asset is its rich grazing and farmland. Some economists are recommending that old, obsolete factories be closed forever, and that Bulgaria return to an economy based on food exports. Whichever direction the new government chooses, tens of thousands will lose their jobs as Bulgaria struggles with its newfound freedom. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Sofia, Bulgaria.
A standing committee of China's Congress today voted to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. China had long resisted doing so. It was the only one of 5 declared nuclear powers that had not signed the 1968 treaty. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, President Bush prepares to leave on a trade mission to Asia, and the ice-cold fish that may hold the secret to saving human life.
80% of nation on flu alert. Severe flu season underway. What will you do? Doctors recommend Theraflu, hot liquid medicine that works fast. Theraflu, strong therapy for flu symptoms.
We bake pearls made of denture material in this blueberry pie to prove how powerfully Efferdent, America's leading denture cleanser, removes this tough stain, even in between. Efferdent, stronger than stains. Before we made a driver's minivan airbag standard in the Plymouth Voyager and the Dodge Caravan, we tested it. We did the same with our available all-wheel drive and ABS brakes. And now for 1992, Chrysler introduces the world's first built-in fold-away child seat. And for this latest achievement, we'd like to thank all the little people who made it possible.
Oh my God. Think about your daydreams and what you would do if you won 10 million. Out of the blue, imagine the bell rings, the winner is you. Publishers Clearinghouse, the house where dreams come true.
Japan's deputy foreign minister today denied a report his government wants to reduce Japanese automobile exports to the United States. But he said Japan is looking for ways to import more U.S. products. All this on the eve of President Bush's trip to Tokyo and other Far East points, as we hear from Randall Pinkston.
The president returned to Washington to pack his bags for what could be the most controversial trip of his administration. Tomorrow he heads to the Far East and, most importantly, Japan. Originally, it was planned purely as a foreign policy mission, but economic troubles at home forced the president to change the focus.
Most important, though, on this trip, we're going to be talking about breaking open markets that shut out American products, American business, and in the process deny us the opportunity to create more good American jobs.
Top on the agenda is the survival of the battered American automobile industry. Mr. Bush will press Japan to lower its trade barriers and agree to import more U.S.-made auto parts. Another goal is to trim Japanese car exports to America. Trade experts predict Japan will respond positively.
They know that their markets are not open to many key products, both in agriculture and on the industrial side.
The administration's new emphasis on trade is driven by politics and a presidential election year. Mr. Bush is sensitive to polls which show American voters think he spends too much time on foreign affairs. The president denies it, but he is worried about his political opponents gaining ground on the Put America First bandwagon.
We need a new economic policy, technology policy, industrial policy in the United States to deal with our workers differently, to think about what we're doing differently so that we really can be competitive.
The U.S. trade deficit with Japan stands at $40 billion, much more than the administration would like. In an unusual step, the president is taking a delegation of America's top corporate leaders in an effort to tell Japanese officials this has to change.
If we could cut our trade deficit in half, that all by itself would add 1 percentage point of growth to GNP. And that, I believe, can be done.
The president knows a lot is hanging on this trip. If he can cut a favorable trade deal with the Japanese, he will take some of the steam out of criticism from his political opponents that he isn't doing enough to help the American economy. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, Washington.
Tough economic times have fueled a rising tide of homelessness. But homeless children are finding a vital lifeline out of poverty inside their classrooms. Regina Blakely reports on a program to rescue those at risk.
Unlike many students, going to school is one of the highlights of 11-year-old Tisha Stokes' day. That's because she's homeless and lives in a shelter.
Okay, which part of this news story gives the most important facts?
This is true. Tisha is a straight-A student and wants to be a doctor. And while most homeless students aren't doing as well as Tisha, at least most of them are in school.
Tisha! Who, what, when, where, and why? And why?
Until 3 years ago, students like Tisha were lost in the cracks of the American education system. But thanks to federal legislation, states must now search out and educate the homeless.
So far, it's working. We just want them to be regular children in the classroom.
Tisha! Financial assistance is given shelters to continue the educational process after hours by providing special tutoring for both parents and children.
Our attempts are to maintain their grade level, to maintain their reading and their math skills, and to also instill in them the motivation to continue on to higher education.
And for the parents of homeless children, the program is a godsend.
There's nothing out here that you can do that you can succeed in without going to school. You know, anybody can mop a floor, you know, but she's special. And she should do something special.
But doing something special is not the only goal. The ultimate aim is to end homelessness.
We take it as our responsibility to break the cycle of homelessness that is manifested as a result of poverty.
Next year, the state plans on spending $1 million on educating the homeless. But many say, despite hard economic times, more should be invested in the future.
It's not enough. The resources have to be improved, and they have to be more money. The trick is to make the programs work.
Children laughing, people passing.
The holidays are tough for Tisha because while the program appears to be working for her, she's still homeless. And that's one reason why she's determined to stay in school.
And I can get a job.
But if the program really works for Tisha and she gets more than a job if she becomes a doctor, not only will she have a home of her own, but Tisha can give back far more than what little she was given. Regina Blakely, CBS News, Chicago.
A little bit of Christmas has finally arrived for the 6,500 Haitian refugees being held at the U.S. Navy base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. 19 tons of clothing, food, and toys collected by 2 New York City radio stations were delivered this weekend.
Well, here's something. 2 successful CPAs, obviously on a business-related trip, huh?
it doesn't look like a bean counter's car, that's because it's not. This is a driver's car, pal. An Infinity. And that is one confident lady. Do you see that? She didn't even get a receipt. Infinity. Makes you want to take up driving again, doesn't it?
Excuse me, do you know what stock options are?
I wish I did.
When is the weak dollar good for business?
Good?
I don't know. The world of finance and investing can be pretty confusing unless you call for this, the Wall Street Journal's video guide to money and markets. It explains the markets in clear, simple English and brings them to life. This exclusive 30-minute video is free when you call for 13 weeks of the Wall Street Journal for just $37, over 20% off the newsstand price. Subscribe to the Journal and get a daily view of the whole world of business and how it affects you. Information you know you should know. Call now and you'll be ready next time someone asks you, are munis always a safe investment? I'm not sure.
Call toll-free 800-232-8300 for 13 weeks of the Wall Street Journal and your free video on money and markets. That's 800-232-8300.
From CBS This Morning, happy holidays.
British doctors are reporting progress in the fight against AIDS. It's a drug called acyclovir, used to treat herpes. In clinical trials, this drug in combination with the drug AZT cut the death rate of AIDS patients in half. One doctor called the discovery another part of the jigsaw. A creature that calls the Antarctic home may hold the key to another medical advance. Jerry Bowen has a fish story with life and death implications.
It's an ugly-looking fish, almost prehistoric in appearance, but these unattractive Antarctic cod may hold a secret that could save human lives, could dramatically change the field of human organ transplants. And far out on the frozen Ross Sea, University of Illinois scientist Art DeVries is hoping to pull out another monster. For 20 years, he's been trying to figure out what keeps the cod from freezing stiff as a board.
All of the fishes down here need an antifreeze system to survive. None of them lack it.
DeVries and his crew are fishing at a depth of 1,500 feet. The water is actually below the freezing point, but ocean currents and salt content keep it from becoming solid ice.
And what we want to know is if ice does enter the fish, why doesn't it accumulate and clog up its system? It obviously doesn't, otherwise the fish wouldn't be here.
DeVries reeled in a 107-pound sample. The blood and tissue will be analyzed to learn how its natural antifreeze protein actually works. That kind of knowledge might help man learn how to better preserve human organs for transplant.
In the splendid isolation of his fish house laboratory here on the Ross Sea, DeVries is more than cautious about discussing what his research may mean to man. But half a world away, other scientists are eagerly exploring the possible applications.
I think we have made a significant new finding.
A research team led by Berkeley scientist Boris Rubinsky injected a mixture of the fish antifreeze into rat livers, preserving the organs in near-freezing temperatures for 24 hours. At present, human hearts and livers can be placed in cold temperatures for only a few hours before they start to deteriorate.
My feeling is that what we found will make it possible for preserving all these organs much longer.
Scientist DeVries says preserving human organs is still only a distant possibility and likely to be quite expensive, $30,000 just to save one heart. And anyway, he has quite another use in mind for this natural antifreeze: ice cream. Keeping ice cream from crystallizing, turning rock solid even after weeks in the freezer. Not because that's the most important application, but because it may prove to be the easiest and first use of something that just comes naturally to one of the homeliest creatures under the ice. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Antarctica.
Good game, good friends. And now that I use Fix-It-Int, I can tell the ref what I really think.
Fix-It-Int and forget it.
Are you nuts?
Before I switched to Fix-It-Int, Jones Peanut Crunchies only looked delicious.
Fix-It-Int and forget it. Fix-It-Int is the strongest holding denture adhesive you can get. It even stands up to the hottest liquids.
With my old adhesive, I'd never make a presentation and drink hot coffee at the same time.
for the strongest hold you can get. Fix-It and forget it.
Morning breath.
As soon as I have my coffee, it's all gone.
Whether you admit it or not, it's a problem.
Okay, I have morning breath, but it doesn't bother anyone.
Don't be so sure.
Mine's not so bad.
Morning breath's not as bad as you think. It's worse. So get Scope. Its 2 powerful ingredients kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Was my morning breath really that bad?
There's no denying morning breath, so save your breath with Scope.
This was me with dull gray hair. I looked washed up. Then I found a whole new way to make my gray look great.
Introducing a new kind of shampoo from the makers of Just for Men Hair Care called Great Looking Gray. Great Looking Gray does more than clean and condition. It gets rid of the dullness, even yellow buildup, brings out the real silver.
What a difference it makes.
New Great Looking Gray shampoo. And for stubborn yellow, new Great Looking Gray anti-yellow treatment.
A Pacific winter storm has hit drought-stricken California, bringing heavy snow to the northern part of the state and to the mountains. That same storm brought welcome rains to Southern California. Up to 2 inches of rain soaked coastal areas that have been suffering from 5 years of drought. But in central Texas, it's a case of too much rain. After more than a week's worth of showers, many areas are still underwater, and residents are braced for more flooding. James Hattori reports.
The Christmas rains continue to spread misery as floodwaters make their way slowly down Texas to the Gulf of Mexico. Today, the worst of it is around Houston.
It's amazing how much water's out here.
An estimated 80,000 residents along the Brazos River have been urged to move to higher ground. The river's predicted to crest near record levels late today or early Monday. West of Houston, the Trinity River, which flooded parts of Dallas a week and a half ago, continues to push out of its banks, fed by overburdened lakes upstream. Officials now say the Trinity may not crest until midweek. In Wharton, along the Colorado, about 30 homes remain uninhabitable, and vast stretches of farm and ranch land will be weeks in drying out.
The person built in a floodplain should expect disaster.
So far, 5 counties have been declared federal disaster areas. 20 more expected to be added to the list.
It's our goal now to get the people's lives back in order, to get them back on the way to a hopefully a much better beginning of 92 than they saw the end of 91.
The numbers in this disaster so far: 15 dead, damage surpassing the $100 million mark, and a cold and sodden holiday for tens of thousands. James Hattori, CBS News, Dallas.
New York City officials met today to try to find out what caused last night's deadly stampede at a charity basketball game. 8 people died and at least 28 people were injured. Authorities say as many as 6,000 people tried to squeeze into a gymnasium that could hold less than half of them.
Everyone has a dream, a vision deep inside.
When I decide to follow up on an investing idea, I need a broker who's ready when I am.
We make it easier to follow your own lead.
I can call Schwab at any hour, nights or weekends, get the information I need, even place an order to trade.
Always there to give you just the help you need.
Help yourself at Schwab today.
With its powerful 16-valve engine, double wishbone suspension system, anti-lock brakes, and a driver's side airbag. Don't just think of it as a wagon. Think of it as an Accord with a bit more space.
Eggnog, mashed potatoes and gravy, Santa cookies, Aunt Wilma's bundt cake.
The average American
turkey
can gain 4 to 7 pounds during the holidays,
candy canes,
and you're probably one of them.
Sweet potatoes,
So include the Kellogg's Special K breakfast in your New Year's diet,
balls, dip,
and get the scale moving in the right direction.
fruitcake, fruitcake, fruitcake.
Kellogg's Special K. Lose the holiday fat.
Weekends are always a time of transition and changing gears. What changes we saw during the weekends of 1991. Events great and small grabbed our attention. Here are a few. The ground war against Iraq began on a weekend in February.
0400 hours local this morning, coalition forces began a major ground, naval, and air offensive to eject Iraqi forces from Kuwait.
A few weekends later, in March, General Norman Schwarzkopf effectively accepted the Iraqi surrender. The first troops came home from the Gulf on a weekend. And so did General Schwarzkopf. It was late on a Sunday night in August when word first came of a coup that failed. By the next Saturday, Gorbachev had resigned the Communist Party leadership.
It's a decision of historic importance. During hours of top-level meetings in the Kremlin, Gorbachev was finally persuaded to abandon the party that had betrayed him in the coup.
And on a weekend early this month, a Commonwealth was declared. The Soviet Union was finished. American politics had its own share of weekend surprises and shocks.
President Bush was hospitalized late today.
The country had a scare on a Saturday afternoon in May. Anita Hill's charges against Clarence Thomas first were heard on a weekend.
Nothing but the truth to help you God.
The next weekend, the entire country was watching.
This is high-tech lynching. I cannot shake off these accusations.
The charges against John Sununu first saw the light of day on a weekend.
John Sununu knows what is right and what is wrong.
Eventually, he saw the light and resigned as White House Chief of Staff. And it was on a tumultuous Saturday in November that the voters of Louisiana rejected the candidacy of former Klansman David Duke. The criminal cases that most grabbed the nation's attention all happened on weekends. William Kennedy Smith was arraigned on a rape charge, the beating of Rodney King, and the arrest of Pee Wee Herman in a pornographic movie house. Mount Pinatubo erupted and forced the evacuation and eventual closing of Clark Air Base in the Philippines. A cyclone hit Bangladesh on a weekend in May. And fires raged through hillside homes overlooking Oakland. The Minnesota Twins clinched one of the most exciting World Series ever late on a Sunday night. And on one Saturday this year, the whole country paused to pay tribute to the Americans who fell at Pearl Harbor on a weekend 50 years before. And that's some of what happened on the weekends of 1991. Later tonight, join Harold Dow, who's sitting in for Bill Plant on the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Connie Chung in New York. I'll see you again tomorrow night. I'll be substituting for Dan Rather this week. Thank you for joining us, and for all of us at CBS News, good night.
This is CBS.